Before I wax lyrical about Shrek inside the squared circle, I need to get something off my chest. While a lot of what we see from him is beautiful, what's beyond any doubt is the fact that he is most definitely a dirty backyarder who didn't go through the traditional means of wrestling training. We know this because of two instances in what we're about to critically analyse. Moments after we see Donkey prove himself to be cut from the same cloth as Rob Van Dam, putting his educated hooves to good use to commandeer a gigantic beer barrel to steamroller a few fools. Shrek does that when hitting the ropes. Traditionally, as we all know, you're taught to shake hands with the top rope when approaching it so you can keep relative control of the elasticity of the ropes and stop yourself falling between the gap between the top and middle. But with pure, unadulterated, reckless abandon, Shrek starfishes the top rope and bounces back like that. Luthez is spinning in his grave. However, Shrek puts on a clinic in his gauntlet match against the Knights at Farquaad's castle, where above all else, the big green ogre proves he is a master of crowd psychology. He saw a bigoted crowd and turned them into rabid fans of his by the end of the piece, hitting all of the right notes to take the masses through a proper redemption arc from their perspective, of course. He built such a natural feeling pace until a massive beer barrel fueled crescendo at the end. On top of that, it's abundantly clear that Shrek doesn't want his legacy inside the squared circle to be shoehorned into one particular style, as he shows flashes of gritty brawling, lucha libre prowess, European elegance, deathmatch tomfoolery, and of course, good old American professional wrestling, while taking down several human men. And while a lot of different styles of wrestling has had an influence on Shrek, it would appear the stars of American professional wrestling have been influenced by Shrek. For years now, Drew McIntyre has convinced us that the Claymore kick was born because he wanted to hit some kind of running kick, but the tightness of his 3MB trousers meant he had to throw both feet in the air at the same time. And quite frankly, Drew, that's bollocks. He copied Shrek, the real inventor of the Claymore kick. And by the way, we need to christen Shrek Verstappen, because as we see, if we slow this one down, we see that his right foot hits the proverbial apex, but at maximum speed, right there on his chinny chin chin. And on top of that, he even makes the poor fella taking the move smell his gooch for a prolonged period after delivering a quite fatal blow. If the boot wasn't enough to knock him out, I'm sure the stench of swamp balls will be. Some may label Shrek's footwork a little bit cumbersome here, but you simply cannot argue with the end results. The psychological abuse he's dishing out here, 1 second the Knights are worthy of his best offense, the next they mean nothing more to Shrek than a smell of his gooch. Jake the Snake Roberts is envious of this mental drubbing. And a drubbing is the fitting way to describe one rather reckless swing of a chair to the back of a knight's head, which comes to us straight out of a CZW tournament of death. Honestly, my disappointment was immeasurable and my day was ruined upon seeing this from Shrek. With all that we know about CTE and the damage blows like this one here cause, it's hard to watch no matter how much armour that poor guy is wearing. It's a head wobbler for sure, and Shrek should know better. As I mentioned earlier, lucha libre and a more European style are also present in Shrek's performance. I mean, that's a fantastic aeroplane spin, straight from the back catalogue of one Johnny Saint, isn't it? But once more, the smooth, it comes with the rough in the form of that master and or hurt lock from Shrek, depending on what you want to call the move. Shrek doesn't manage to lock his hands fully behind his victim's neck. Instead, he appears to be using his thumbs alone to drive the fella's neck forwards, which I'm sure you will agree makes his application of the hold nowhere near as impactful as it could be. It's also making the next spot of the match all the more dangerous for Shrek because he gets Donkey to deliver a Shibata-esque headbutt to the fella in shining armour, and because because Shrek seemingly doesn't have full control of the head. While I do accept his thumbs are probably the size of a baby's arm, he's risking a ricochet back into his own face and a potential concussion after Donkey has done his thing. Safety first, my big green friend, safety first. But while this jolly green giant is clearly lacking in some areas of basic fundamentals in terms of the mechanics of professional wrestling, I am relieved to inform you that his aptitude for hitting moves is almost flawless from here on out. And after saying that, I've realised that Shrek might just be a young buck, as what I've just said there doesn't half sound like Matt and Nick Jackson, doesn't it? This flawless ability to nail the moves he tries has to do with the sheer athleticism of the ogre, because even though he does stand somewhere between 7 and 8 feet tall, and despite the fact he weighs somewhere in the region of 450 pounds, he is still able to hop to the top rope like any plucky babyface cruiserweight. It's an astonishing feat of agility and clearly shows his footwork, balance and ability to perpetually move across the floor is among the best of his generation. We see this a couple of times during his match at Farquaad's Castle, with the second time seeing Shrek teleport from the centre of the ring to the top turnbuckle to deliver what can only be described as a shoot crossbody. I can only describe this as a shoot because there was no cushioning of the fall from Shrek here. He went full on, landing on his belly, driving his opponent through the floor. Literally, it's a shoot, everybody. Now, some may say this is a style that needs to be tempered because it's dangerous and makes for a short in-ring career. But there's no doubt about it, everybody. Shrek wants to give those villagers in the stands their shillings worth with his performance here, while also shooting on his opponents in a very discreet manner. Maybe like a Gunther or a Sheamus from the modern day, or an Antonio Inoki from years gone by. And speaking of Inoki, when Shrek nails that double clothesline, all I could think of right there, that was done with the precision that grates the likes of Inoki and maybe Bret Hart and maybe MJF and Adam Cole too. They used to hit their maneuvers with that kind of precision. Shrek has got that down to a T. Controlled chaos is something I'd labelled Shrek with here. As while the stuff he does isn't the most aesthetically pleasing, he certainly obtains unquestioned results. The big green bastard doesn't even leave his feet while delivering the double leboche. It's a remarkable feat of strength, poise, and most importantly, as I mentioned just before there, precision. He nails those knights right below the chin in the optimum space between the head armour and the body armour. From there, we have a drop kick that Bob Holly or 2002 Randy Orton would be proud to call their own, a standing suplex where he controlled his opponent even though they were on the run in the setup of the move, once more displaying raw power, timing and a great appreciation for the human form and physics alike. There's a bloody ankle lock, for crying out loud, where the idiot of a knight is reaching for the bottom rope, even though he's clearly in the midst of a no disqualification bout. In fact, there wasn't even an official present at all, so what was going through his brave and valiant mind there? But what we do need to see as well right here is that Shrek has great appreciation for ring awareness, as we see him try to pull his opponent back from the ropes to avoid a rope break, even though they're not legal in this bout, but that doesn't matter. Shrek's really good. Anyway, an overriding theme of this bout is that Shrek, a master of some of his craft, knows when to give the fans more, and this is where the match turned into a car gearbox and went wah-tish. Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg WrestleMania 33 vibes here and now. The aforementioned ankle lock, followed by a tombstone that is clearly among the most dangerous we've seen since The Undertaker did it to Kane at WrestleMania 14. We're spamming the finishes here, and it's absolutely brilliant. Scintillating stuff. Seated senton. Shrek has proven himself to be a bit of a Bam Bam Bigelow in the sense that he is absolutely massive, but is not afraid to hit moves that things the size of him should not be able to hit. I can only hope that Shrek is thinking about his knees when spots like this one arise, because if a man the size of Rey Mysterio is having lots of knee injuries because of moves like the seated senton, come West Coast pop, you know that combination. I can't begin to imagine the damage all that extra weight Shrek carries around in his day-to-day life, never mind when he's doing the wrestling, is doing to his insides and his knees, and also the insides of his knees. Remember the way he hit that crossbody earlier on? He's the ultimate entertainer, but I do hope he's not doing too much damage damage to himself that he becomes the subject of a Dark Side of the Ring episode in years to come. In conclusion, Shrek should have been in the professional wrestling business. I mean, just look at the guy. The guy is anywhere between 7 and 8 feet tall, which immediately screams main eventer of more than one era in the history of the business. He weighs 450 pounds, meaning he's a big, sweaty ogre, and certainly appeals to at least one prominent figure in the history of the business at the very least. He's as charismatic as he is green, which means he couldn't be any more charismatic. He can be a wholesome fairy tale character-loving babyface or the most terrifying of heels when he's doing the Raw. His skull even belongs to professional wrestling, allegedly, because Maurice Tillet was a French navyman turned professional wrestler from the 1940s and 1950s whose acromegaly caused his hands, feet and head to swell from the age of 20 onwards. The boffins at DreamWorks apparently took one look at Maurice and thought cynical, cranky Scottish ogre who lives in a swamp and doesn't want to hurt anyone in the pursuit of solitude and in turn happiness. There's like 3 different articles on this on the internet, so it's got to be true. But above all else, everybody, he's absolutely massive. He can do all of the moves from a myriad of styles in the professional wrestling world, although some of his fundamentals are definitely lacking, which is not only endangering himself but his opponent as well. So in closing, I've got one bit of advice for Shrek in terms of his professional wrestling career, and that is slow down, you big green bastard.